Good afternoon. Welcome to BJC Mitzvah Day number 192, part 4. Yusei for Chinuch, a Mitzvah Day keeps us on its way. It's been a while, but we're back. Here we go. We're continuing the prohibition to reveal the ervah, the nakedness of one's sister, meaning to have relations with one's sister, God forbid, no matter how she's one's sister. With the exception of a stepsister, a man who already has a son, who remarries a woman who has a daughter, so then that son can marry the daughter. The Chinuch discusses a broad application of this mitzvah. This prohibition of one sister is among the ervahs, the types of illicit relationships that were commanded to mankind in its entirety, both Jews and Noachites, right? In other words, Judaism wants non-Jews to keep 7 Noachite laws. We, as Jews, have to keep 613 biblical, as well as thousands of rabbinical laws. But non-Jews keep the 7, go to heaven. One of them is not having certain illicit relationships, including with one sister. However, despite the universality of this prohibition, there is a difference between Jews and all other nations in its application. For with regard to all other nations, only a maternal sister is prohibited to them. But with regard to Jews, all types of sisters are prohibited, whether they are paternal or maternal sisters, as was mentioned earlier. When the Beis Hamikdash, the temple, stood, and the Beis Din, the court, had the power to enforce biblical law, Noachites living in areas under the jurisdiction of the Beis Din, the court, would be punished for violations of the 7 Noachite laws, just as Jews would be punished for violations of their mitzvahs. Having concluded his discussion of a group of 3 ervah prohibitions, which was mitzvahs 190 through 192, that applied to all mankind, the Chinuch discusses some general rules that pertain to Beis Din's enforcement of the Noachite laws. Now, you should hold on to this following rule concerning all the mitzvahs that the nations of the world were commanded to keep. As long as members of those nations are under our jurisdiction, it is incumbent upon us to punish them when they transgress their commandments, just as it is incumbent upon us to carry out the punishment of Jews who transgress the mitzvahs. Says the author, I have already written above in Parshas Yisro, which was mitzvah 26, that their punishment for transgressing their commandments is invariably death, whether they sin deliberately or without deliberation, and that they do not require prior warning to be held accountable for transgression of their commandments. Since these laws are so fundamental to a moral society, lack of knowledge is considered unacceptable negligence, and no prior warning is required. However, in order for them to be punished, they do require the first-hand testimony of 2 witnesses or confession of guilt. It would seem that although Noachites are not eligible to testify against a Jew, they are eligible to testify against each other. So ruled the elder, meaning the Rambam, Maimonides. Thank you for listening to Sponsor Future Mitzvah, 36-100 Have a wonderful Shabbos. And God willing, we'll see you Motzi Shabbos.